name is Ryan, and I'm co-founder of Carsonified, and we are the company behind Vitamin, dropsend.com, Future Web Design, Future Web Apps, Future Mobile, and hugmymac.com. So welcome to our office. We're in Bath, England, and we started as a very small company, and now we've grown to about 11 people. And this session is all about how to build a web startup, and I'm going to share some tips with you that I've learned about how to save money from the very beginning. So let's get started. Now I'm going to talk about which things you can probably do without or save money on. Probably you've got a desk at home. So I would say don't go out and buy one. If you do, go to IKEA. You can get a nice glass desk for about $70. And don't go buy something expensive. It's just not worth it. Initially, you probably have a chair at home that you can use. If not, again, there is a nice sort of typical office chair you can get at IKEA for about $80. So if you have to, get that, but otherwise try to use something you have at home. And a computer. Probably most of you already are watching this on a computer, and so you probably don't need one. Ideally, just use what you've got, even if it's crap. When I started Carsonified 3 years ago, I had basically just a really ugly PC and a yucky monitor, and it got me through at least the first year, so I didn't have to spend anything on that. Business cards. You definitely don't need business cards in the beginning. I think there's a lot of pressure to be professional and to have business cards, but the truth is you just don't need them. If you really think you need it, then I would go to a wonderful website called moo.com. Moo.com, M-O-O.com. This is a place you can get really affordable business cards. They're cute and cool. They're about that big, and you can put your Flickr photos on the back. And they're very affordable, and they ship them all over the world. So definitely go for those. The website. You will need a website, obviously, but a really good way to afford a website is by using WordPress. WordPress.com can host your site for you. It's essentially a blog, which you all know what that is. But it's a perfect place to get a site that's hosted. And then what you do is you choose one of their design templates. And I know that's not ideal because you might want it perfectly designed for you, but just to get started and to get up and running cheaply and quickly, that's a great option. In fact, all of our websites are run off of WordPress. And if you go to WordPress.com, they actually host it for you, so you don't even need hosting. So that is a really good option. Now, down here for logo, Jill and I were discussing, my wife and co-founder, we were discussing this last night. And a great way to save money on that initially is choose a typeface that you really like. So go to a site like Veer, VEVR.com, and look for the typefaces on there. Choose your company name and then choose a typeface that looks really good, and then just modify that typeface a little bit. It will save you a huge amount of design fees. Obviously, if you're a designer, you can design your own. But that's a really good way to get going early on and not have to spend a lot of money on branding. So those are a couple quick tips on how to save money when you get started. Next, I'm going to go over some tips on how to do a cash flow, how to make sure that you'll stay in business once you start. So see you in a minute. All right, now I'm going to show you an example cash flow that I've made in Excel. This is super important because it will help you understand how healthy your company is, if you have enough money coming in, and if you don't, what to do about it. So you'll see there's a couple areas. Up here you have income, and then you have expenses, and then down below here are total expenses, and then down here a bottom line of closing cash, and this is the one that's obviously really important. Okay, now I'm just going to explain briefly how this cash flow actually works. So let's go through how we calculate these various things. This one's very easy. It basically takes the sum of those two rows. Here I've entered in some basic expenses, your salary, salary tax, insurance, retirement, and so forth. Now, what I'm sort of pretending that you're going to start in January, but obviously it will be at a different month. And then down here you have those various expenses. And at the end, the total expenses just adds them up. So that's just a sum of that. Now, you'll notice this part here, which is the times 1.05. Now, what that is, presuming that your expenses are going to be 5% worse than what you think. And it's always a good idea to do this. Usually you always underestimate your expenses. Now, next up, I've got this thing called salary tax, and it's important to plan for this. So now, I'm sort of guesstimating that you only have to pay it once every 3 months, but it will be different based on where you live. The way I've calculated it here is by adding up the previous 3 months of salary and then multiplying it times 35%. Now, that will obviously be different based on what country you live in and how your taxes are calculated, but you should definitely plan for that because sure enough, the tax man will want his piece. Next little tip in here is bank charges. This is one not to forget about. If you're conducting sales online, the bank would definitely take a piece of each one of those sales. The way that's calculated is really simple. It's just your total revenue times 3%. And that's roughly what we pay in bank charges when you combine the third-party payment processor, and we use secure trading for that, and the bank, and we bank with Bank of Scotland. And it's roughly 3%. Now you notice here it starts to actually cost us, and that's because what I'm anticipating is that we're not making any revenue the first and second month, and then the third month just a mere $500. But you obviously need to pay bank charges on that, so that's that times 3%. Okay, so moving on. This here obviously calculates your net income. So what is your revenue minus your costs? And ideally, you do not want this to be red, but it's pretty much inevitable that your first couple months will be red because it's highly unlikely that you'll be bringing in sales right away. Next, you can see that I've got an opening cash line. And when you start, what I'm presuming is that you were able to save $10,000 and put that in your company bank account. So the way that closing cash works is it takes the net income and subtracts it from your opening cash, and then it gives you that figure. So that's basically how a cash flow works. It's very simple. But powerful, and it's important that you do this on a regular basis. If you look at what's happening here, the cash after the first month goes down to 4, 2, then you're right down to $292, and then here you start going negative. Now, if you don't have an overdraft in place, then that will put you out of business. So it's very important that early on, if you think this is going to happen, that you talk to your bank about getting an overdraft facility and explain to them how eventually your business is going to make money, but the first couple months are going to be tough. That's super important. All right, thanks for tuning in. See you next time for part 2 of how to build a web startup on Vitamin. I'll be talking more about marketing and other very important issues that you need to know before you get going. If you want to learn even more, please join me in Bath for my workshop called Startup Clinic, which is on February 15th and 16th. Take care. See you next time. Bye.